The first case of COVID-19 in South Africa was discovered 2 years ago. Today, there have been 1,898 new cases in the country. Gauteng had the highest caseload with 707 infections. The health department has declared that 100,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccines, which are due to expire at the end of March, risk being destroyed because of the declining vaccination rates. The Health Minister, Dr. Phaahla, said on Friday that NEDLAC will offer vaccine mandate recommendations to the National Coronavirus Command Council. He joins us now to elaborate further. Minister, a pleasure to have you on the program this morning. 2 years on and very difficult lessons to be learned from this COVID-19 outbreak. Speak us through your own observations.
Well, it's been a tough learning. Over the last 2 years, we have learned that this particular virus has got a very unpredictable patterns. When it started, as you said, first case 5th of March 2020, and at the time we thought that by the time that the infections rate started going down, as we went towards the end of the year, we thought it was over. And then, unknown to all of us, somewhere around November, late November and December 2020, everything changed again. We had a new variant, and of course, the rest is history. We are now just at the tail end, or if technically, we have just exited the fourth wave. But the infection, the virus is still with us, keeping on changing. So the main lesson has really been that, unlike any other previous epidemic or a pandemic, this has been a very difficult one, and we have had to adjust in terms of various ways of containing it, the non-pharmaceutical interventions, the masks, all the other measures, hand washing and sanitizing, keeping a distance, avoiding crowds, all those. And of course, finally, beginning of last year, we were able to receive, vaccines. And now that's really the main battle, to get as many people as possible vaccinated, so that hopefully by the end of this year, we could hopefully talk a different story in terms of the pandemic.
And fast forward to where we are now, Minister. What do you make of these calls to end South Africa's lockdown restrictions? Do you deem the calls to be very premature, especially given the risk of a fifth wave of infections?
Well, it's understandable because, people are really tired. None of us thought, by this time, when the first case started in 2020 on this day, none of us thought 2 years down the line we will still be wearing masks and talking about all the measures which we have to take. So it's understandable. The measures in terms of containing this virus are very antisocial. Besides the deprivation of economic activities and livelihoods, which many people have lost, just the social aspect, the fact that you have to be careful about visiting your friends, visiting family, all those things are just too tiring. So it is understandable. So that's why we're preaching, patience, resilience, to say we have gone the long way. We can't afford the risk of just losing everything now. So we must carefully, manage this and, take all the measures, especially with the measure now of vaccination, that with all these measures, we can slowly get out of this.
And speaking about managing this very unpredictable virus, what are the prospects of the country even entering a fifth wave of infections, especially considering that we will be entering winter monsoon?
The likelihood from epidemiologists and other experts, and even just from even those of us who are not necessarily experts,
right,
from just the experience of the last 2 years, it looks logical that at some stage, and as experts have been saying, that we're going in 3 months kind of waves. and the highs and the lows of the waves, and then it comes back again. It does look likely that it's not going to be something which disappears immediately. We're optimistic that the next wave, just like the fourth wave, we're hoping that it will be even a situation where, in terms of severity of illness and deaths, that it will be even less than the fourth wave. So, and that our hope is that progressively, therefore, as we take all these measures, and especially with vaccination and also an element of natural immunity from those who have been infected, we're hoping that progressively it will get milder to the stage where it will actually be like, as others are saying, like the flu virus.
Right.
But it's not going to disappear tomorrow. So it's almost inevitable that as we go towards winter, we will get a fifth wave, hopefully, which will be mild.
Now, Minister, let's shift gears a bit. Now, plans are underway for the department to present new suggestions to the National Coronavirus Command Council. And one of the matters that's been tipped is on the mandatory vaccination mandate. Speak to us about when this will happen, or when these discussions will take place.
Well, the presidency is the one which convenes those meetings, but we have been assured that it will be in the course of next week. The exact date will be confirmed by the President's office, but during the course of next week there will be a coronavirus council at which these matters will be discussed. As you would recall, almost was it 3 months ago when the President announced that the team will be doing consultations.
Right,
now, this is a multi-departmental team. It's called the NET Joints. It's got the heads of departments and other senior officials from various departments. And this is the team which has been leading consultations, including at the NEDLAC, at the forum NEDLAC, where you've got all the various constituencies, labor, business, the civil society. So, and over and above NEDLAC, there have also been consultations with various sectors. So they will then present a report upon which then the NCCC and subsequently Cabinet will evaluate and take decisions. So that's where the finality will be taken at that forum, at the NCCC in the coming week.
Now, Minister, the vaccination uptake has dropped quite dramatically, and some critics even argue that it appears to be no push from the Presidency or the National Health Department to even change this. Talk us through your own observations in this regard.
Well, I think that's a very unfair criticism. You would recall that right from when it was very difficult even to access the vaccines, President Ramaphosa was leading from the front in terms of, working with the Ministry of Health,
right,
the Ministry of Finance, making sure that finance makes available the necessary financial resources. Also, at times, even entering into putting pressure on some of the manufacturers to make sure that they can make vaccines accessible. At international forums, he's been pushing the heads of states, as a result of which we received just over 7 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine from the US, and also other donations, and also making sure that vaccines are available to the African continent. So, and he made sure that at every given time he promotes the vaccination. It's a difficult matter, and as you can see where we are, it's a particular segment of the population, the younger people, and we understand that those are the people who are on social media, right, who are bombarded with various messages, firstly to say that they are not at risk, secondly to say that there's still a lot of issues, they must ask questions, and so on. So that's where the difficulty is currently. It's not lack of will, lack of leadership and will, but we're just up against a very difficult campaign from those who are pushing an anti-vaccination message. So we're doing everything. That's why even about 2 weeks ago, we were very happy to welcome a number of young people, some of them young health professionals, who came forward to help us to make sure that they can take the message of vaccination, to their peers, the young people. So it's not out of lack of trying. It's just that we've been up, even some religious leaders, some of them even members of parliament,
right.
And some even medical people who have been really pushing a very negative message against vaccination. So that's really what we are up against.
And speaking about the uptake of young people, at this moment, do we have the number of vaccinated school learners?
Well, what I can say in terms of, I haven't checked the number of individuals. I just know that by yesterday, for the below 18, between the 12 to 17, which will be largely your learners at the primary and secondary school, we had administered just over 1.6 million doses, some of which may be second dose. So I suspect when we translate that into individuals, and I stand corrected, but it's probably somewhere just over 1 million of the school-going age group. Because some of those will be second doses. But the information is just to be extracted from the system. We do have the information, but I suspect it's just over 1 million of the learners who have come forward. But the numbers are rising on the daily basis, not at the pace at which we wish for. But we appreciate the fact that people are still coming forward.
Now, Minister, we are fast running out of time, but I also want to get your thoughts around this worrying revelation that about 100,000 doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine may be destroyed by the end of this month. What do you attribute this to?
It's purely the fact of the poor uptake. This is what we are battling with to attract, South Africans who are not yet vaccinated to come forward. What we are witnessing is that largely those who have already been vaccinated either with one dose or even 2 doses of Pfizer or 1 dose of J&J are coming back even more better in terms of their second doses and their boosters than those who have not had a single shot. So this is the reason why we are in this predicament now of possibility of some doses expiring. And that's why we mentioned yesterday that because we still have even more doses which we acquired, remember, we had to make this acquisition preparing ourselves to vaccinate at least 70% of the adult population.
Right. In
other words, just under 40 million people of the adult age group from 18 years upwards. So we are ready with that. But now when there's a slow uptake, when we have already made the commitment, that's why we're looking at even some kind of exchange with other nations where they are moving faster for the doses which may expire later in the year, to give it to other countries so that when our uptake improves, then they can return to us. So those are the discussions under the World Health Organization and the COVAX that we're discussing with other countries.
And lastly, Minister, are people coming up in their numbers, especially for the boosters, since the mix and matching was announced?
I wouldn't say numbers, but that's the majority. When we look at, for instance, the day before, I haven't checked last night's numbers. The day before, we had 107,000 doses which had been administered. Out of that, close to 80% were either second doses or boosters, and only between 10 and 15% were first doses. So, as I said, we're having more people actually coming forward to get the doses, the boosters, including the same dose, same vaccine, or the mixing of the vaccine. That is happening. It's quite encouraging, and we urge people to come forward for that.
That was Health Minister Dr. Joe Phaahla having a wide-ranging conversation there with us, speaking to us about the vaccine rollout as well as the slow uptick of the vaccinations, especially when it comes to young people in the country.